Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in and for being awesome. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, bringing you unique personal insight on Glacier National Park that you can't get anywhere else. In this episode, we are discussing the Grinnell Glacier Trail. And we'll cover a lot of things like what you need to know before you go, kind of set the scene, our personal experience, and some tips and tricks in order to enjoy it. Grinnell Glacier. Grinnell made this park famous, right? George Bird Grinnell, what a character. A lot behind him. We may not be able to get into all of that today. Sarah knows this, that, and the other inside and out of George Grinnell. And this hike is named for him. A lot of things in the park were named by him or for him, in this area especially. It's one of the prettiest lakes in the park, my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree. And one of the prominent glaciers in the park is the destination, and it's a hike, to me, that's worth the hype. So, Sarah, where are we? We are up in the northeast part of the park in the Many Glacier Valley, and that's where the trail starts.
Yeah, the trailhead has a little parking area, so arrive early because it does fill up quickly. There is a pit toilet there, which is nice to have. You can also walk through and get to some flush toilets that are right behind the ranger station, too, if those are open. There's also another way. Let's say you're staying at the Many Glacier Hotel, which is a little further away from the common trailhead. You can actually walk from there. You exit out the back door of the hotel and walk down towards the shoreline, and there's a tiny little service road where you can jump on. It's the Swift Current Nature Trail, and it actually goes around Swift Current Lake. So you can, it's just shy of a mile, I believe, until it rejoins the Grinnell Glacier Trail. So if you want to go that way and you don't want to walk the road down to the most common trailhead, you can take that route too. So there's two ways to get to there. And both are trails that walk along the Swift Current Lake, and it's really pretty.
So pretty sections of trail. Good points. I would get lost every time if Sarah weren't with me. I've been there a bunch of times, and there's even a sign that says Grinnell Glacier Trailhead. But there's a couple different ways to get there, and it's not right. The trails in Many Glacier kind of leave from various points. Is that right? I mean, we got Iceberg Lake, Cracker Lake, Swift Current, Grinnell Glacier. All of these leave from slightly different areas of trailhead, and most of them near the Swift Current motor inn.
Correct. And so the Grinnell Glacier Trail, if you're just coming in and you're on the Many Glacier Road, don't actually take a left where the hotel is. Keep going straight, and the road eventually does dead end at the Swift Current motor inn. So if you've gone all the way there, you've gone too far. You will, I believe it's right past the helipad. On the left-hand side if you're going in, and it's before the campground as well. So you'll see kind of an open area. It's a U-shaped parking lot. And like I said before, it does fill up really quick. It's a pretty popular trail. It's a strenuous trail, but I've seen lots of families on this as well. They just start early and you take your time because hiking up to a glacier is pretty awesome.
For sure. And even the trailhead forks, a mile or two in a few times. Stay aware of junctions as you go, and take a Sarah with you because she'll just, like she did, tell you exactly where to go. I need her. You need her. Listen to the podcast on any one of the hikes, and she'll tell you exactly how to get there, how to get started, which is important because you don't want to waste time, looking for the trailhead when it's important to get a parking spot. You don't want to waste time when you've got your day planned, and these hikes take hours. But this one is definitely worth it. It's so cool. You start in the woods and you end up coming out of that pretty quickly, and you can see your target on this trail for a long time. You can see the glacier, at least the Salamander Glacier, for a long time. You're looking at your destination. Back to the duality of I can see it. It's almost right there. And also that is still so far away after I've hiked for an hour. Sarah mentioned it is a fairly strenuous hike.
Yeah, and actually the first mile, I think a mile and a half, are very much level because, like I said before, it's part of the Swift Current Nature Trail. So if you're starting at the trailhead, the usual trailhead, you hike around Swift Current Lake, which is very popular for moose. So be on the lookout for them. And the entire time you're winding around Swift Current Lake, look back on where you came and across the lake because you can get some pretty phenomenal pictures of the front. Well, I guess it's technically the backside of Many Glacier Hotel. And then you reconnect. It's about 0.3 miles. So when you get to a boat dock that comes across Swift Current Lake, you walk about 0.3 miles and you get to the foot, which is another boat dock of Josephine Lake. And actually, Statman, can you give us some stats here? How many miles are we hiking? What's our elevation gain and how many hours should we expect?
Sure. Let's talk about the details. But you just heard her. You need her. She knows everything about this, and I can't believe how she can remember it. But take us with you in the car on your way. This hike, all right, let's get to it. Stats, it's 5.5 miles one way to the foot of the lake. And you just want to allow, we'll talk a little bit more about it.
To the foot of what lake?
Upper Grinnell Lake.
Okay.
Yeah, because
there's several lakes on this trail.
A few lakes along the way.
So pretty.
Yeah, it's and you can explore, leave time, and save energy. It's 5.5 miles to the foot of Upper Grinnell Lake, but it's also, you might want to plan for 6.5 miles one way because you can explore that area and get closer to the glacier. And it's about 1,500 plus feet of elevation gain. So, but it all kind of happens, as Sarah mentioned, all kind of happens in the latter half of the hike. So it's uphill. I mean, you see people stepping off to take a breath and that maybe aren't used to, the slopes of this sort of valley, the Many Glacier Valley. It's huge and there's such neat things to see. But we'll call it 11 to 13 miles round trip, depending on what you do, a little over 1,500 feet of elevation gain. They do say, and we say it feels like more than that. But Sarah mentioned, I want to say that the lakes that you begin near, Swift Current and Josephine, you can cut off actually like 3.5 miles of the total hike by taking the boat across those lakes. And so be aware of that. We mentioned it in other areas of the park, Two Medicine area. Some of the hikes, you can cut off some of the mileage with a boat ride, and that's also kind of fun.
Yeah, make sure you reserve your spot ahead of time because those boat reservations fill up quickly. You can do that online on Glacier Park Boat Company. You can also do a walk-up. It's not as reliable because people get pretty antsy and they reserve those ahead of time, but taking a boat across the lake, the drivers, they're really good about giving you a lot of information. And we've been on the boat before and seen moose over on the shore or, swimming, dipping down along the shore. So it's a really scenic ride and they feed you a lot of information, which is great. Josh mentioned the elevation gain. So the elevation gain really doesn't occur until you get to the foot of Josephine Lake. So once you go around Swift Current Lake and you take that 0.3 through the woods, you kind of come out at a separate lake there. There's not a lot of vegetation that separates these two lakes. It's kind of interesting. Swift Current Lake actually is not a glacier-carved lake. It is only about 30 feet deep. I just learned that. We did some swimming there last summer out on our boats, and it was great. It was really cold, but it's a very shallow lake, actually. And you don't see a lot of that glacier color, that flowered silt in Swift Current Lake. But once you get to Josephine Lake, the color changes. You can clearly see what feeds it. So it's a really, really pretty lake.
Yeah, that's right. We were at Swift Current Lake, took some kayaks out there, jumping off, diving into the water, swimming. It gets deep enough for that. But there were people standing waist deep, 100 feet out into the lake, toward the middle of the lake. And there was we did see a moose kind of bathing, and one guy was getting a little too close, and the ranger spoke up with his megaphone from the porch of the Many Glacier Hotel, and they are watching. Remember, give wildlife some space, up to 100 yards for some of these larger creatures, and so don't go and approach them, and take your bear spray always, and be ready for any sort of encounter. There is so much more to say, but I've got to tell this quick story. We were hiking this one time, and the family took the boat. I took the vehicle and back to the parking area and ran to meet them along the trail. And while I was running, people were shouting, and they saw it from the lake, but there were two grizzly bears up above me, not that far, on this side of Alton Peak, and everybody was like, "What's no?" And I was just running. I said, I'm coming. I'm trying to catch you. I will be there to meet you at the trailhead." And then I heard the growl, and something you never forget, hair raised on the back of your neck, bone chilling, whatever you want to say. But these grizzly bears were growling at each other while I ran to the trailhead. Everybody was seeing it happen, but I was oblivious, and that's not uncommon in general. But it was just an incredible story. I'll never forget hearing that. And of course, we love to think back on it. And also, I'm still alive.
We had another bear encounter on that trail as well. And speaking of bears, this is a very, the Many Glacier Valley in general is a great place to see grizzly bears. So it's extra important that you're staying vigilant and paying attention and being very bear aware. Keep your bear spray on the front of you. Practice taking it out and using it. Don't actually spray it, but just practice taking the safety off. And what you would do, you only have a couple seconds. But I remember when we were working in the park and your parents came to visit, and we were hiking this trail, and we had just started hiking up from the foot of Josephine Lake, and your parents took the boat across to the head of the lake where you can get out of the boat and it reconnects to the main part of the trail. And while they were out on the water, and we could hear this above us, there were two bears growling. We don't know if they were fighting or playing. We couldn't see them because it was above us. I guess that would be Grinnell Point right above us there, but that was kind of interesting. And remember seeing some single hikers coming down with big wide eyes like, I don't know where this is. Another reason not to hike alone. But we've had some pretty interesting encounters with wildlife on this trail. Bighorn sheep. We've had a face-off with a female moose before. So give these animals plenty of space and pay attention to your surroundings.
Obviously, Sarah, we've got a lot more to say about this hike, and we will, but today's hike, Grinnell Glacier Trail, and yes, it's a long one.
Good thing Freedom Bank makes banking as easy as checking a trail map.
Wherever you roam in the Flathead Valley or Glacier Park, you can bank from anywhere.
Thanks to Freedom Bank, proud sponsor of Hiking Fools.
You wouldn't start a 10-mile hike without a map, and you shouldn't manage your money without a plan. You can check out our excellent deposit rates at our website, freedombankmt.com. At Freedom Bank, we'll help you chart a course for success with personalized guidance and technology that works anywhere from Polebridge to Big Fork. Freedom Bank, your trail guide to financial success. Member FDIC.
Welcome back. We are the Hiking Fools, and today we have been discussing the Grinnell Glacier Trail, and we can't say enough about it. There's probably going to be a part 2 to this episode, but we're just setting it up with, there's a ton of wildlife over here, so that's something to talk about. The wildflowers are beautiful. Flower guy, I'll tell you about those a little bit later. There's stromatolites, intense, incredible geologic features on this trail and on this hike. And we should talk a little bit more about the hike itself. So, Sarah, go for it.
Well, once you're, like we said before, your elevation gain happens right at the foot of Josephine Lake. So you start to slowly climb and then eventually pretty steeply climb. The trail is very much exposed, so make sure you bring, protection from the sun, and you're heading up towards the garden wall, which a lot of weather comes over from the other side. So bring a rain slicker or some sort of rain protection, and maybe, a warmer layer, depending if this is early in the season or not. There is a few places to filter water. So on the trail, there is, I'm trying to think, 1 or 2 places where water comes over. There is kind of a small waterfall that does hit the trail a little bit at one part. That would be a good place to filter. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until you get up towards at the glacier itself at Upper Grinnell Lake. We had mentioned before that it's a great place for wildlife, so be aware of that. It's a very popular trail, and it does get narrow in places, and a lot of people want to see a glacier, which is great, but it can become somewhat of a highway. So start early to avoid all the traffic. But once you get up there, you get to Upper Grinnell Lake. So you put down below you're going to see Josephine Lake. As you get higher, you'll see Lower Grinnell Lake, and then as you get closer to the glacier, you will finally see Upper Grinnell Lake. And they vary in different turquoise colors. Upper Grinnell Lake is more of that opaque turquoise versus Lower Grinnell Lake is that deeper turquoise. There is a pit toilet up there. So a lot of people like to know that. There's a pit toilet at your start and a pit toilet at your end, which is really nice. And I'm so glad they put that up there because this trail is so popular. It's great to have that.
Yeah, I love to look back and see the 4 lakes. Don't forget, once you get there and as you turn around, you can see Grinnell Lake, Josephine Lake, Swift Current Lake, Sherburne Lake even as you're looking back. So both directions. I mean, you've just got terrific views, and the peaks surrounding it are incredible. I mean, you have a couple of options, ultimately to get on a summit or get on a high point. There's a beautiful waterfall that goes from upper to lower Grinnell Lake, and it's, fireweed. I love the fireweed. Most of you have seen it, or if some of you haven't, check it out. It's a beautiful pink to purple flower, on the end of a long stem, and it's an indicator of ecological recovery in the landscape, because fireweed is one of the first things to grow after a forest fire, and it grows in disturbed soils, quote unquote, and it's abundant in moist soils after a forest fire. And so it's just a significant source of nectar for pollinators and like bees and butterflies, and has a reputation even for as an anti-inflammatory herb.
Yeah, Josh mentioned Grinnell Falls. So Grinnell Falls is actually coming from the melt-off from Grinnell Glacier, and it drops about 960 feet down into lower Grinnell Lake. So it's a really, really cool waterfall to see. And once you're at the overlook of the glacier, you don't have to stop there. There are little trails. You can see where people have formed little spur trails that go down actually to the water's edge. So you can go down and find the perfect picnic spot and have a snack right next to the water's edge, feel the water, do a little filtering. It's so cold. But if you also stay high, there's a place for you to see some stromatolites. There's some of the biggest stromatolites I've ever seen in the park, and they're really, really cool. They're very ancient. They are fossilized blue-green algae. So the microbial mats are the largest, like I said, ever in the park. So it's really something to see. Take the time. It just adds a little bit. Just explore up there. They're among the most well-preserved in the whole U.S., which is pretty cool. They are found in the Belt Formation right here, which is about, 1.8 billion years old, making them some of the oldest fossils on Earth. The variety of fossilized cyanobacteria in the park comprises one of the richest accumulations of Precambrian life in the U.S. When I go there, I have to lay on them. I have to touch them, but they're huge. They are, I would say the circumference of them. What would you say, Josh?
I don't know. When you lay on one, the diameter, it's longer than you.
Yes, I would say so. It's just really, really cool to see this ancient fossilized life.
There's so much to see and to do. I want to mention that there are other glaciers. You're going to see 3 glaciers, right? I don't know if Jim Glacier still consider one, but Salamander and Grinnell Glacier, and there are icebergs floating in this lake. And as far as Swift Current Glacier is not far off as the Eagle Flies either. And you can walk a lot of different places on this. And I want to mention too, from the other side of the park, as you're exploring Glacier National Park, you can take the Glacier Overlook, the spur trail off of the High Line, which we've talked about in another episode, and look down on all of this from a totally different perspective. And you've got to do that. It's just incredible.
Yeah, Gem is the smallest named glacier in the park, and it's located on the upper part of the east side of the garden wall. So when you're standing at the overlook, you can look up, and it's kind of a white oval shape. It's about 5 acres, and it's a hanging glacier. So then you have Salamander Glacier 2, and that's all these 2 pieces of glacier are simply broken off from Grinnell Lake Glacier. They separated actually sometime before 1929. And there's a set of falls coming off Salamander as well. They're about 440 feet. And when you're standing at the glacier, it doesn't look that high, but these glaciers are huge. So they're really cool to see, and they've been shrinking. So it's important to get up there and view them. In 1850, at the end of the Little Ice Age, it was at about 710 acres, Grinnell was, and about 100 acres now.
Hey, no matter what you think, we're just saying the glaciers are changing over time. We're not taking a political stance or anything like that, but we're just saying, I'll tell you what, go see them while you can. That's what I'll say. Yeah,
they're losing about 2 to 3 acres annually. So yeah, go see them. Grinnell is a mountain or cirque glacier, which is really cool. And we talked about, the color of the lake. It's an opaque, vibrant turquoise color, and it comes from the rock flowered silt. These suspended particles are ground up sediment from the bedrock, and they reflect the scattered sunlight, which is creating this milky, aquamarine hue color. So it's a really, really photogenic lake. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much, as we talked about, wildlife, wildflowers. You're seeing a glacier, the beautiful lakes along the way. Make sure you arrange transportation, figure out where you're going to be and where you're going to park and where you're going to start. And the hike itself, anywhere from about 11 to 13 miles round trip, depending on how much you want to explore. 1,600 feet of elevation gain. It gets steep at points and you're exposed to the elements. And we love this hike, obviously, and you should definitely do it. If you've ever wanted to hike into a postcard, a calendar, or the cover of Nat Geo magazine, this is the spot to do it. Grinnell Glacier Trail is one of our favorites. So tune in next time. We'll talk more about some great hikes in the park. And remember to follow this podcast on Apple or Spotify for the latest episodes. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, encouraging you to always go.